So we're in Logic. Here is our little project that we were on before. So I just want to go over some basic controls just so we can familiarize ourselves and to be able to manipulate different parts of the interface. So the plus will create a new track. Obviously we can choose a software instrument channel with a preloaded instrument, an audio channel, and the drummer channel as we've already looked at. Now, to quickly create a channel, we can double click into the track header. So with a software instrument channel selected, if I double click in the track header, another software instrument channel will be created. With an audio channel, another audio channel will be created. But with the drummer, another software instrument channel is created. And I'll show you a reason for this in a little bit. So we can simply hit backspace to delete any of these instruments. The blocks that populate our lanes are called regions in Logic. So with any region selected, the top bar will show white. If you move to the bottom right hand corner, this will allow you to resize the region. If you move to the middle, this will allow you to loop the region. This means that the part is repeated. You can see that there is this repetition because the whole shape of the region is ended with these little indentations and started again. If I do this with the piano sample, now you can see the repeated part is grayed out or slightly faded so that you know that that is the repeated part. This is good for quickly populating your project to see if sounds are fitting together. At this point, I'm just going to go to Logic, Preferences, and General. And on the Editing tab, I'm going to click Fade Tool Click Zones and Marquee Tool Click Zones. And then close this window. Fade Tool Click Zones allows you to apply fades to audio parts by putting the mouse to the top right hand or top left hand corner. So we've now got top right, top left for fade. We've got the middle for loop. And we've got the bottom right hand corner or left hand corner to resize. Now, an important thing to notice is that with a MIDI region, we can extend as much as we want because this is just an empty container to put information into. An audio file cannot be extended longer than its original length. It can only be shortened. Next, I want to show you a quick tool just to zoom in. So if you press Control and Alt, it changes the mouse to a magnifying glass. If you drag the magnifying glass around the area that you want to look at and let go, it will zoom the screen to that area. If I do it again, so just zooming around the audio region, it now fills the screen with just that area. Now, rather than scrolling to zoom back out, I can simply hold Control and Alt and click the mouse once for every zoom level that we've made. So I made 2 here. So if I click once, it comes back to there, and I click again, it comes back to there. It's a much quicker way of zooming in rather than using these scroll bars to manipulate the screen size. Next, if I want to duplicate a region, so just in the same way that we might loop to duplicate it, I might not want them to be continuous. So I might want this piano part to play again here at the beginning of bar 9. So if I click and drag, you can see that this little black tooltip appears and it says move. Now if I press Alt, this now changes the command to copy the region. So as long as I let go of my mouse first, this region will be copied. Now, incidentally, if I was to create a Finder window and go to my music folder, if I wanted, or if I move this file to here, this is moving from my music folder to the desktop. By dragging, it moves the file. Now if I drag it and press Alt, it duplicates the file, it makes a copy of it. So this is exactly the same, and now because Logic is running on the Mac operating system, a lot of keyboard commands are going to be transferable. If we double click on the region, the MIDI region, it will open the piano roll for us. If we click on the audio or the drummer region, it will change this editing window to show us detailed information. Now, one thing that I want to make sure that we don't end up with is a screen that is full of different information, leaving us this tiny working area. Okay, there is no reason for us to be squeezed into this tiny area. There are a lot of parts of the screen that we do not need to have visible all of the time. So the library and the toolbar, we don't need to have the loops and notes and audio files visible. Try and keep the screen to a minimum. So if you're working in the mixer, you perhaps don't need to have the inspector. If you're working on the arrangement window, maybe just have the inspector so you're aware of what's going on with that channel. So some quick keyboard commands just to make sure that you can get rid of what's on the screen. I is the inspector, X is the mixer, P, the piano roll, O is the loops. So depending on where you are and what you're doing, this can help you keep the screen tidy. So the next thing I want to do is I want to input and record some MIDI into this region. There are several ways that you can do this. The first would be to play the part. So if I hit record, I have my MIDI keyboard connected, so if I hit a note, you can see there is a little indication just here saying that we're getting a MIDI input signal. Now that's not very clear. If I press this little down arrow and go to custom, screen changes somewhat, and where it says no in and no out, it will actually tell us the notes that we are pressing. So to record, press the record button. Now if we press P, shows us these notes that have been played, and you can manipulate them. We also have primary and secondary tools. Now you'll notice that in the arrangement window, which is currently highlighted with a blue line, the arrangement window I have a left click, which is my mouse, which is just for moving, and the marquee tool. Now a few minutes ago I chose the marquee tool selection. Now what that does is it gives us access to this secondary tool very, very quickly. So let's create some space, zoom in, and just have a look at this. So before, I would have to press the command button, and this will give me my secondary tool, which will then allow us to highlight, delete, alter the parts, whether that is MIDI or audio. Now with the option selected of marquee tool click zones, this now changes how a region behaves again. So if we hover over the top part of the region, this allows us to drag it. If you hover over the bottom half, this allows us to make a selection. So now we have fade, loop, resize, move, highlight. Finally, if I just grab this little piece of audio here that is been trimmed down, if I click and hold, it will show you the rest of the region that has been removed. So if we, for example, remove this section and then change our minds, it's actually still there. What we are doing is editing the instance of this file. We are not editing the source file. So we can have multiple versions of this. So you can see 0.11, 0.12, 0.13. If I delete this, I can just restore this. So the editing that you do is not destructive.